Welcome to the Therapist HQ, your weekly pep talk for private practice pros. Let's dive in.
Today's episode is brought to you by Powbox. I recently switched my group practice off of Hushmail and onto Powbox, and honestly, I should have done it sooner. Hushmail's portal system meant extra steps for everyone, like passwords, logins, load times. Powbox does the encryption automatically in the background, so emails just show up normal, but they're still fully HIPAA compliant. The best part is I get to use the same Gmail inbox I already know and love. If you're looking for a new, secure, HIPAA compliant email provider, the details will be in the show notes with an exclusive deal just for our listeners. Hello and welcome back to the Therapist HQ, your weekly private practice pep talk. My name is Alicia Murray, and as always, I am so glad that you're here. And today I am so excited to be joined by Dr. Kellen Scantlebury, who is a doctor of physical therapy and NSCA certified strength and conditioning specialist, and the founder of Fit Club New York, which currently has 4 locations across New York City. He is a former 4-year college basketball starter. He's worked with the New York Jets, professional pickleball athletes, and the New Zealand Olympic sailing team. Very impressive background. He specializes in sports rehab, performance training, and pelvic floor therapy for female athletes, and has spoken at Fortune 500 companies on injury prevention. Holy cow, Kellen, welcome.
Wow, that makes me feel awesome hearing that, and also old, like, oh my God, I've been practicing for so long.
You have done a lot in your career. And one of the main things that we've been talking about is how you have expanded your business now into 4 locations across New York City.
Yes, not easy. Thankful for my wife for allowing me the space to be able to work ungodly amounts of hours, but so worth it. And the impact that we're able to have in a city like New York City is incredible. Reading the reviews that people leave when they work with myself or my team is incredible. And it really fills my cup to want to keep providing that impact for more and more and more active New Yorkers.
Yeah, that is just amazing. So take us back to when you just had like a single location. What came about when you were like, okay, it's time to expand, or like what problems were you running into where it felt like expanding was like the next natural step?
Yeah, great question. A lot of people often ask me like, what metrics did you use? And did you have this like amazing roadmap? And like, I feel sort of bad saying no. In the beginning, I was just like figuring stuff out. I think they call it a practice because that's honestly what we're doing. We're practicing, right? I mean, maybe some people have it a little bit more put together than others, if they come from a family of like entrepreneurs. But for me, the thought of expanding, the idea of expanding, it honestly came from like great relationships and unique opportunities to be able to partner with a space or a space that became available that was previously leased out, but the tenants left during COVID. So I got this awesome space at a really good deal. So it was just very unique opportunities that presented themselves. I feel like I have an open heart and mind to these opportunities when they come about, because you never know when they are going to come about. And the last piece was being a yes, how can we make this happen person versus no, and here's the reasons why we can't make this happen person. So yeah, I think that's what really helped me be able to expand to these 4 locations within our first 9 years.
Wow, within the first 9 years. So when you talked about the locations, do you feel like you ever had any like creative agreements to get into a space, or were they all pretty like traditional leases or purchases?
Definitely some creative agreements. So 2 of our spaces are more like standalone fit clubs where, just think Fit Club on the door, Fit Club on the awning outside. And then 2 of our spaces are actually partnerships with other facilities. One is a padel facility. So if you're not familiar with it, think of squash and tennis like mixed together. It's a racket sport. And they had some extra space that they didn't really know what to do with. And I'm like, I could think of something. And so we built out a gym, we built out private rooms, and we're able to do some sports rehab, orthopedic rehab, and padel specific training, tennis specific training there. And my other facility, we partner with a gym in Williamsburg, and we have the largest fitness facility accessible possible to us that really aligns with our brand, being Fit Club. We like to blend physical therapy, personal training, recovery all together. So being able to have, the 15,000 square foot gym facility, 3 different turfs, 10 squat racks, 20 treadmills, it really aligns with our brand and the types of patients that we want to attract. So those were 2 unique ones. And the other 2 spaces were more your traditional leases, 10-year lease, 15-year lease, 20-year lease. And negotiations are critical. And that's something that we don't learn in PT school.
So those creative leases and spaces are so funny because you literally put yourself in the room with your ideal clients and just made it so accessible and easy for them to find you and use your services.
Correct. I'll be treating a patient. My staff will be treating a patient. A gym member will just come over with a question about their shoulder. We give them a little value. Next thing you know, boom, we have an eval on our schedule for Thursday, and it's said gym member. Sometimes traumatic accidents happen. Someone's Olympic lifting and they fall, they drop the weight, they dislocate their kneecap. We're right there. They already are used to coming to the gym to work out. Why not just keep coming to the gym for physical therapy? And then the same thing with the padel, right? You sprain your ankle playing padel. You're used to coming to the facility. Now you're just, instead of coming to play, you're coming for rehab. So it's worked out in our favor. And I'm hoping to continue for each standalone office I have, then also have a partnership office and a standalone office and a partnership office so that they grow simultaneously together.
That is so brilliant. And I think such a maybe unknown territory that people can track into with clinic spaces that maybe they hadn't thought of before.
Yeah, rent and employees, that's what you spend the most money on, right? Your biggest expenses. And especially in a city like New York City, rent can be extraordinarily high. So thinking creatively on ways to reduce your overhead is, how businesses can make money.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't even imagine the lease agreements in New York City, especially compared to smaller cities or suburban areas. It makes a lot of sense to get creative in those ways. Have you learned anything or come across anything in negotiating lease agreements that maybe you never thought that you would find yourself in? Or like you said, it was nothing that you had ever crossed the territory into learning in all of your schooling?
Yeah, I would say number one is first thing, get a good lawyer on your team. They cost money, but they're worth every penny if they fight for you. So that would be number one. And then number 2 for me is, fight, 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 fight. Therapists, whether, physical therapists, mental health therapists, occupational therapists, we're just genuinely like really nice people. We're people pleasers. And landlords are the exact opposite. So they're going to try to take advantage of you and that nicely, right? We may have to come outside of our typical comfort zone and be pushy and stand, on your own 2 feet and fight for yourself. And that makes the world of a difference in, having a great first couple years because you were able to negotiate things down and in your favor versus really struggling to get the ball rolling, especially as you're growing a new business, right?
And it's so funny you say that because in a conversation I was just having yesterday about you have a CEO hat and you have a clinician hat and you have all these hats that you're juggling. And I can imagine dealing with landlords is you have to take your clinician self and like who you kind of are at your core, like this helper, this people pleaser completely out of the equation in order to get your business needs met, or else, like you're saying, they are going to be out for themselves and their income and their building and all of those things. And you really have to advocate and fight your way into what you are able to do and what you deserve.
100%. And the sooner any owner, entrepreneur understands that, the better. I think that will serve them very well going forward. But it is a challenge. It is a challenge.
Do you feel like you've always had that skill, or is that something you've had to develop throughout the years?
Wow, great question. So I was a basketball guy and I was used to being, more of the outspoken leader on a bunch of my teams. So I was very much used to holding people accountable and challenging people. So I think sports helped me develop that skill. And I was fortunate to have that background, but people who don't play sports, don't have that background, again, don't have parents in business, I think a lot of them unfortunately get taken advantage of, right? Because again, there was never a class on leases in school, not one. So you have to seek this information out. You have to seek mentors out because otherwise you can get burned. And again, you don't want to get into a 10-year lease, 15-year lease, 20-year lease that's not in your favor, that you're working against yourself potentially from day one. Business is already hard, and you want to make sure that things are aligned in your favor versus working against you.
Yeah, definitely. What's the longest lease that you think is appropriate for a clinician to sign?
I would probably say 15 because so much changes in 15 years. You might not even want to live in the same geographic area. If you have kids
Hmm.
or you start off a clinic, you have no kids. By the time your 15-year lease is up, you have a 15-year-old. You're in a
Hmm.
completely different place.
Hmm.
But on the flip side, negotiating longer leases oftentimes gets you better deals, right? So you
Yeah.
got to sort of go into this world with the end game in mind. I'm
Hmm.
usually looking for anywhere between 10 to 15 with the ability, obviously, to add on if things are successful and we want to continue to impact that community.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. And even to me, 15, I'm like, wow, that's longer than I've been in business so far. That's a really crazy number to try to plan for, but I can also see the benefit of having your roots established there and having that longevity and kind of forcing you into that habit and routine and longevity of the location.
Because on the flip side in New York, you do a 5-year lease. In 5 years, the price of real estate can pop 20, 30, 40%. And you might get priced out of a neighborhood that you really love. And that's also very frightening as well. So there's definitely some unique challenges to being in like the concrete jungle for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything looking back that taking the leap from one location to two that you would have done differently at all?
For sure. Constantly learning, reevaluating. Yeah, I just cleaning up like operating procedures. When you have one
Interesting.
clinic, I don't want to say it's easy to manage, right? Because it's not easy to manage. Having a clinic, being an entrepreneur, nothing about it is easy. But when you go from one to two and you can't physically be in a space, but you
Mhm.
need to operate it and make sure the people in that space are operating on policy, your procedures, your operating procedures need to be like, boom, ironclad. So that was something I had to learn through mistakes, right? We could have cleaned a few of those things up. If I were to go backwards, I would have definitely cleaned a lot of that up. And I feel like that would have helped us. I call it stepping on landmines. You don't know that they're there, but you step on one and boom, it blows up in your face, right? So I think that could have helped
Mhm.
us navigate some of the landmines that we unfortunately did step on along the
Mhm.
way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and that is, I imagine, hard to put your trust in, with 4 locations, even if you're at 1, there's still 3 that you're not physically present at. Even with these, updated operations and standards, is it hard to put your trust in people to represent the brand and, like, do well by you at those other locations, or how did you learn to trust those people?
Yeah, great question. I inevitably give a lot of trust, and it's on you. If you break it, then I'm done. All right. So my default
Mhm.
is to almost over trust from the beginning, try to over
Mhm.
communicate from the beginning and set the expectations of this is what I expect, this is what we want, this is what we don't want, right? This is not inconsistent or not satisfactory. This is what exceeds expectations. And then this is what really strong value looks like. And then I just trust. I trust, I trust, I trust. I have, you know, IP agreements, NDA, NSA agreements. So we have some legal documents that help me feel confident in the trust that I can give to people. But yeah, I've now defaulted to over trusting initially and allowing people to sink or swim. And most people they choose to swim. A few do sink, and you find that out really quickly, and you just move on. And that's another thing that I've learned is not to get so emotionally tied up in that. In the beginning, I was emotionally tied up in every person who came, who left. I took it very personal. If someone was leaving, they were leaving me as a person. But not understanding that people have lives. They want to move to Florida, COVID happening, right?
Mhm.
Their own intrinsic motivations, and that's just something that again that you learn as you grow. But that was a struggle for me because I took losing people very personally in the beginning.
Yeah, I imagine. And such a big learning curve because you kind of have to learn through exposure of people coming and going, which isn't always like a delightful way to learn things, is through experiencing them over and over again. But I imagine the other side of it, of having this delicate balance of, liking and respecting the people who work for you, and also knowing that this is business at the end of the day. And these are business relationships that you're fostering at the end of the day.
Yep. Nothing personal. We're here to help each other, help our community, and earn as much as we can while doing it.
Absolutely. Can I ask logistically, what kind of things are you protecting in like your NDAs and NS?
So obviously, like trade secrets, the documents that I share with people, I have, I don't even know, hundreds of documents at this point, right? That we're sharing where it's like our evaluation process, our discharge process, what a 5-star training assessment looks like, documentation policies. So I'm actively sharing this with people. I want people to be better. I'm going into this wanting them to succeed more than anything. So those are the things that I'm trying to protect. I'm trying to protect the patients that we're literally providing on your schedule. Those are the things I'm really trying to protect so that people don't copy paste. All right, this is my document now. I'm going to use this, right? When I put patients on your schedule, this is
Mhm.
my patient now. No, this is a Fit Club patient. And we even talk about that. I just left the meeting today, our team, like, this isn't your patient. This is Fit Club's patient. So they should be totally fine seeing DPTA and DPTD and DBTC, right? That's the environment that we want. So God
Mhm.
forbid you're on vacation. This person isn't like, well, Susie's not here, so I'm not coming in. That's a loss for the company, right? And that's over dependence on
Mhm.
one person. And we need people being confident in the Fit Club model, not just Susie's treatment or Brandon's treatment or Jonathan's treatment.
I love that. And I wanted to ask because I think that therapists particularly get a little maybe like put off by legal document and think that it's maybe offensive to potential new hires to, slide across all of these legal forms that they want them to sign. But I often tell people like, I'm not taking control of clients. Like clients have the autonomy to leave the practice if a therapist leaves. But if a therapist leaves my clinic, I'm protecting my operations. Like I'm protecting all of these systems, like you said, in the paperwork and the different, interventions that we're doing and our different workflow systems. Like those are the things that I care about protecting in the business because of, and I'm sure you experience this, the back end of putting those things in place. You don't want somebody to come in, have access to all of these things, and then be able to, peacefully leave and utilize them in their own way. And I think just acknowledging that, like, it's okay to protect yourself with these legal forms. It doesn't make you this bad person or a bad business owner and you're not out, against people. It's just ultimately like, protecting this thing that you've built for so long and put so much into.
Couldn't agree more. And we call this a practice for a reason. Unfortunately, I've had to
Mhm.
learn through some pretty bad exits, people that I trusted who left in not ideal ways and did the wrong thing. And it hurts. It hurts. There's still a human element to this. So these documents, these policies, these procedures are like you hit the nail on the head. They're protective. They're not
Mhm.
aggressive. They're not meant to come after you or anyone in any way, but they're just simply meant to protect the time investment that, the owners and the management team have made. And no one sees that. And it's like the iceberg meme.
Mhm.
Everyone sees the tip, but no one sees the bigger underbelly, which is like 10x the tip, right? And
Mhm.
that's what goes into creating these policies and procedures. So whenever I'm sitting down with a new prospective hire, I'm just like, this is not meant to be aggressive. This is solely meant to protect the investment that we've made into the company. And if anyone has questions on it, cool, great. Happy to sit down and explain that to you. But if there are people who you can feel the energy start to shift in the room when you discuss these documents. To me, that's red flag, right? Why is this such a deal breaker for you? If this is just to protect the investment that we've made into the company, it's not to come after you in any way. Why are you giving me this sort of energy now? So I also think that that's a great way of protecting yourself from making the wrong hire as well.
Absolutely. So you've probably had a lot of experience with interviewing and hiring and going through onboarding process. Is there anything that's drastically changed for you in terms of how you find good fits for this Fit Club culture?
The way I go about getting talent now is a little different. I use social media a lot more. Before in the past, it was more just job posting sites. But I found honestly that a lot of them, it's, pay to play. And the types of candidates that we were getting were not the people that were good fits for Fit Club. So we show a lot of our team culture and camaraderie on Instagram. So starting to use Instagram more for prospective hires has been great because then people are like, you guys look like you're having so much fun. Everyone is smiling. I love the company culture. Everyone looks like they're having a good time. They're working well together. At the end of the day, I feel like that's what therapists want, right? People want to have fun at work. They want to make impact in people's lives and they want to go home and enjoy their family time. So that's what we try to put forward on our social platforms. And it's been really helpful. We've been able to get a lot more resumes, a lot more inquiries, and the type of people that would actually fit our practice versus what we were getting on some of these online job postings.
Yeah, I love that. And I think Instagram is such a great and maybe undervalued way to get new employees. That's where a majority of mine have come from as well, because I agree the pay to play models of the Indeeds and even the LinkedIn's, where have these people come from? Like I feel very
Mhm,
uninspired by, I'm paying to put this out there and like the ROI on that is usually pretty uninspiring. And I
mhm.
think the same way that you can use Instagram to bring clients in, you can bring staff in that same way of just showing who you are and what you do and how you're doing it and attracting people who fall into, the same personality subtype and have the same goals and all of the same sort of alignment that we're looking for.
Couldn't agree more. And that's exactly what we're trying to do and double down on it, right? So that we have a pipeline of people that are interested in us and we're interested in them. So when opportunities do arise, hey, let's have this conversation.
Yeah. So since you've done your share of hiring, and I'm sure you have a huge team behind you, how are you figuring out what you need to be doing personally versus what you're delegating out to your team?
Whew,
Learning
that can be a
curve.
struggle. Yeah. Cause sometimes I'm sitting down and I'll have like an hour and I'm like, all right, what do I even focus on now? My
Hmm.
to-do list is so long. So trying to prioritize that can be a challenge. At the end of the day, I forget the guy, his name. He does the 75 hard, but he's like, there's really 3 to 4 super important things that you need to do in your day, like that are just like the most important things that you need to do that day. And when I do have the time to sit down, that's what I really try to think of. It's like, what are the 3 to 4 things right now that I need to do that are going to move the needle? And each day that can be different, right? It can be employee retention, right? It can be marketing. It could be negotiating and trying to negotiate for higher reimbursement rates, right? So each day that can be a little different, but I try to like sit down and map that out. And I'm a huge fan. I have so much like ADD. I'm always thinking about what next to do. I write notes to myself in my phone all the time. Thought comes into my head, boom, 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 write it down. And that just helps me in the moments where I do have that hour to sit down. I don't have to necessarily think of it right then and there. I can just go to that list and say, okay, this is the line item I thought of earlier today. Knock that out. This is the next
Hmm.
line item. Knock that out. And I literally cross them out. And that just helps me stay organized because you mentioned it earlier. You're wearing multiple hats. Sometimes in a treatment, a patient says something that you remember, like, man, I got to do this thing for marketing. Jot that down, right? It's the gift and the curse of being an owner, right? But at least that's a tool that I found that has been able to help.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know of anybody who owns a business who doesn't have that running, very aggressive to do list that's, in their phone, in a journal, whatever it might be. Because, yeah, as much as, I think owning a business does give you a lot of time freedom, it also, I don't know that it gives you a lot of mental freedom because, like you said, like the entrepreneurs who are looking at growth and always improving and making things better, it's hard to shut that part of our brain off because we're constantly seeing and hearing and feeling things that it's like, oh, I could actually take this and, implement it this way or make things better by doing this. And I think it is the mark of like a really great person to work for and a really great person to be in business with. But like you said, it could definitely be a curse of like, maybe we need to turn it off sometime.
1,000%. I'm going to have to schedule an appointment with you to help me turn it off.
Been leaning big into audiobooks on my downtime because then I can't think about anything except for the audiobook or like even podcasts that I'm listening to. It's a very temporary measure. But in the moment when I'm like, okay, we need to step away, like nothing good is coming from these, thought holes that I'm finding myself in. But yeah, I think leaning into like the blessing part of it of like you are continuing to create greatness and create growth. And I think that, that's every entrepreneur's dream is to just continue to be better.
1,000%. And you get inspiration from every place, everywhere, every person, every conversation. So I couldn't agree more. Hone in on that. To me, that's
Mhm.
almost like a superpower, right? Utilize those things that make you unique, make you different. Because guess what? The other people see that too, right? Yeah, like you said, that can be inspiring to your staff, to your family, to your friends. And yeah, I'm big in leaning into the strengths, right? Very much a strength based leader. And I definitely have some weaknesses. Those are the things I delegate, right? You spreadsheets, delegate that. Talking about HR stuff, delegate that, right? But marketing, I love, right? Treating patients,
Yeah.
I love. I'll shake hands and kiss babies and hug old ladies all day, right? Love that. You got to know yourself. And I think a lot of that also comes with age, right? You know, who you are to the core.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's any practitioners of any shape or form who own a clinic and are thinking like growth might be the next step for them and opening that second clinic, is there any advice or even just, I don't know, acknowledgement and validation that you could give them for these next steps that they want to take?
Yeah, if I had to talk to my younger self, I would say confidence is key. Confidence is key. I was super young when I started, and sometimes I had to fake that confidence. It might not have
Hmm.
necessarily innately been really there. So,
Hmm.
confidence is key. Preparation is key. You can't plan for every landmine, but try your best. Plan for things not going well. It will take longer than you probably anticipate, especially if there's a build out involved. So plan around that, plan around delays, and also plan to not have your friends and families be 100% supporting you. I think for so many people, we're used to our friends and families being our like major support system. And for some reason in business, it does not work that way. Your
Hmm.
closest friends might never schedule an appointment with you and
Hmm.
may go to the therapist around the block from where they work, right? Your closest friends or family members may just seek non treatment versus a treatment with you. And don't take it
Hmm.
personally, but I would never go into business relying on family and friends to help support it. I would go
Hmm.
into business relying on communities, referral sources, outside sort of collaborations to help support it. And that would be my advice to my younger self. And then last piece, offense, be on offense. I think a lot of people like to play defense a little too much and it
Hmm.
stops them from even starting. Be on offense, make things happen, be aggressive, make a mistake, but that mistake is because you tried to make something happen versus you weren't sure, so you did nothing, right? That would be my
I love that. And I think the part about the friends and family supporting the business is something that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, but is happening a lot behind the scenes, even in terms of you're going to quit your job to do what? And you're going to, invest your money into what? And you're going to give up your retirement for what? And I think that it stalls a lot of people from, doing what they know in their hearts and in their minds that they're able to do because the voices are loud around them. And I think being able to trust your inner voice and knowing that, like you said, like you will form a community around like minded business owners and you will build a referral community and like you will build that and you don't need that sort of like innate support that maybe you've had along the way thus far in order to be successful.
agreed. That validation is nice when it's there, but don't use it as a crutch.
Yeah.
And then also just understand that being an entrepreneur is lonely, lonely, and you have to be okay with that, right? There's so many things that you just can't share with your team, unfortunately, that
Hmm.
you just can't.
Hmm.
And there's so many things that you might not want to share with your husband. right? Because you don't want to
Hmm.
bring everything from work home, right? So
Hmm.
finding other, like you had mentioned, like-minded business owners to share things with, bounce ideas off of. That's why I'm so glad to have met you in Cancun, because it
Yeah.
grows that network, right? And
Yeah.
you can help each other in a non-competitive way, which is beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot to even mention that. So Kellen and I met this past May in Cancun, of all places, when Jane brought us out to speak at their employee conference. I think they call it every year.
Mhm.
And we each spoke with the CEO of Jane, and we both use Jane, love Jane. I mean, Jane is supporting 4 separate clinics for you now, which is just incredible to have that behind you and have that support behind you. Very different than my virtual practice and how we're using Jane, but such a cool opportunity, such a cool few days that, we had and the people that we're able to meet. And you're so right, like being able to extend your network and even just acknowledging, like, oh my gosh, I have the support from all of these different places and people with these different backgrounds and different professions, but you still relate on that core essence of like, we are in the pits of entrepreneurship together and, learning and practicing and growing and succeeding, alongside each other, which is a really cool experience.
Yeah, sharing your successes, sharing your failures, learning from others. I'm not the only one going through this. They also are going through this. They went through this. Sometimes you might be lucky to find someone who's just like a few years ahead of you. So everything that
Yeah.
you're experiencing, they experienced like a few years prior. That is the best person, the best
Yeah, it
person.
is.
Take that person out to lunch, take them out to dinner,
Yeah.
learn from them, because that to me is the best way that you can learn about the landmines along the way. It's
Hmm.
very rare that you can learn from experience doing what we do. But if you have that rare opportunity to do so, man, you got to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Sit in the rooms where you want to eat. Well, my gosh, Kellen, I feel like we could talk about this all day, but I so appreciate everything that you've shared with everybody here today. I feel like there's so many things that I hope folks are able to take away with them because they are speaking to somebody who is probably in the position that they want to eventually be in. And so I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all of that with us.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you for having me on. I appreciate you for creating this platform. And I just want you to keep going. You're doing amazing things. You're impacting so many people, both as a clinician, but then also as someone who's, creating a community of other
Thank
therapists
you.
as well. So, yeah, real big kudos to you. And yeah, just know that the work that you're doing is super, super impactful.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You're so kind. And right back at you. It's incredible. I love watching everybody around me do their thing.
That's what it's about. All ships rise together.
It is. Well, Kellen, thank you so much.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right, friends, before I let you go, I need to tell you about just a couple things. First and foremost, if you are listening and you are in the early stages of building your practice, like you're still figuring out the foundational stuff, the LLC, the rates, the systems, getting your first client in the door, I have a course just for you called the Complete Launch Kit. This is a step by step program with 65 lessons that walks you through everything in the right order so that you're not left piecing it together from 1,000 different places. It covers forming your business structure, setting your rates, getting your systems in place, building a basic marketing foundation, and seeing your very first client. If you're in that stage, that is the place to start, and it will be linked in the show notes. If you already have a practice and your marketing just feels inconsistent, you know you need to post, you know you should be blogging, you know your Psychology Today profile needs work, but you're not actually doing any of it because you don't know where to start, that is what my HQ marketing community is for. It's a private community for private practice therapists, and every week you'll receive a weekly marketing drop with 5 social media prompts and templates, 2 blog post prompts and templates, and a community outreach idea with a template or script, all aimed towards increasing your visibility and getting more client referrals in the door without the burnout and without the blank stare into your laptop every Monday morning. The link to join will also be in the show notes. Last but certainly not least, if this was helpful for you, I would love if you would leave a comment, subscribe, and share this with a therapist who needs their own weekly private practice pep talk. It is one of the best ways to get this in the hands of therapists who need it most. That's all for this week, and I will see you in the next one.